Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because, well, we're tackling one of the most frustrating, universally human experiences out there: why we fail to change. I mean, we've all been there, right? You buy the self-help books, you set the early morning alarms, you make these grand promises to yourself. And then what? A few weeks later, you drift right back to being the exact same person you were before. Today, we're going on a really fascinating journey to uncover the hidden biological and psychological forces that are secretly sabotaging your attempts to change. We're going to pull back the curtain on why this happens and, much more importantly, how you can finally make those changes stick. Okay, so let's just dive right into this by asking a pretty piercing question, one that completely reframes our struggle. Are you trying to change what you do, or are you trying to change who you are? You see, most of us treat our failure to change as a lack of willpower, right? We attack the behavior itself. But the truth is, it's actually a crisis of identity. Literally every action you take is filtered through a subconscious question: is this what someone like me does? So, if you secretly see yourself as a couch potato, well, trying to exercise every single day is going to feel like an impossible battle against your own self-concept. We got to kick things off by debunking a massive illusion, and that is motivation. Listen, motivation is just a feeling, and feelings are notoriously unreliable. Sure, they peak after a hard conversation or maybe late at night when you're staring at the ceiling feeling ambitious, but they completely fade the second real life gets stressful. Successful change, that relies on building systems. It's all about designing your environment so that the right behavior is just the default. Put your running shoes right by the door. Get the junk food completely out of the house. You really don't need to wait for a fleeting feeling of motivation if your system is just running on autopilot. Because here's the crucial point: relying on motivation triggers this really painful trap called the false start cycle. When motivation is running high, we overcorrect. We completely overhaul our diet, our sleep, our workouts all at once. But that kind of extreme commitment requires maximum effort. And when the inevitable slip happens, because hey, we're human, that one single slip leads to complete abandonment. We feel ashamed, and then we just sit around waiting for the next peak of motivation to try again. To really understand why this cycle is so powerful, we need to peel back our first layer and look at what's happening inside our bodies. All right, layer one, biology's built-in resistance. First off, I want to completely absolve you of the guilt of backsliding. Why? Because your own body is literally fighting against you. The culprit here is a biological principle called homeostasis. Simply put, homeostasis is the built-in tendency of all self-regulating systems to resist change and maintain equilibrium. It's what keeps bacteria alive, it keeps frogs alive, and, well, it keeps you alive. But here is the major catch. Homeostasis does not have a value system. It doesn't know the difference between a change for the better and a change for the worse. It treats literally all significant disruptions as a mortal threat to your survival. Think of it exactly like an internal thermostat. Let's say you've been pretty sedentary for 20 years and you suddenly decide to start jogging. About a third of the way around the track, your body just freaks out. You feel dizzy, your chest tightens, maybe you feel a sudden wave of anxiety. Well, that's your homeostasis thermostat flashing its warning signals. It senses a massive deviation from your 20-year normal and immediately sounds the alarm bells to shut this new behavior down and restore your equilibrium. Your body is quite literally trying to save you from your new workout routine. But what happens if we actually manage to push past those biological alarms? That brings us to layer two, the cognitive dissonance trap. Once we beat the biology, we hit a psychological barrier: cognitive dissonance. This is the profound psychological discomfort, really an intense mental tug of war that we experience when our actions just don't match our internal story. When we hold two conflicting beliefs at the exact same time, it causes an almost unbearable existential crisis in our minds. And to resolve that tension and just find some peace, we are incredibly quick to justify, ignore, or completely warp reality to fit our bad habits. Let's look at a classic case study from the Decision Lab. Meet John. John's core identity is that of an avid environmentalist. He goes to the climate marches, he drives an EV, the whole shebang. But then, John learns that his daily coffee habit relies on processing plants that completely destroy ecosystems. Oh no! He is part of the problem. The psychological discomfort he feels is massive. So what does John do? Does he immediately stop drinking coffee? Nope. He resolves the dissonance by rationalizing. He decides the evidence must be exaggerated, or maybe that his other good deeds just cancel it out. He literally changes his belief to protect his comfortable behavior. You can actually spot this happening in your own life if you just look out for these 5 signs. If you've ever felt anxious about a choice, or found yourself making these elaborate excuses, or maybe avoided going to the doctor because you just didn't want bad news, magically forgot some contradicting facts, or just downplayed a conflict by saying, it's not a big deal. Guess what? You are experiencing cognitive dissonance. You're warping reality to avoid the pain of changing your behavior. So what's hiding beneath all of that?
Let's move to layer 3, hidden competing commitments.
Now we're peeling the onion even deeper, because beyond the biological alarms and the mental gymnastics, Harvard psychologists Robert Kegan and Lisa Lahey discovered something truly fascinating. Your failure to change often isn't a lack of effort, and it's not even a fear of change itself. It's actually a sign that your energy is being secretly diverted to a hidden protective goal. You have a competing commitment that is operating entirely in your subconscious. It's kind of like there are little demons, unseen saboteurs, pulling the strings inside our minds. You are sincerely stepping on the gas pedal toward your new goal, right? But your subconscious has the emergency brake pulled all the way up to protect this competing commitment.
Let's look at a real-world example from Kegan and Lahey's research. So Helen was a rising star manager. Her stated goal was to speed up production on a major project, and she genuinely wanted to succeed. Yet she kept stalling, inexplicably missing deadlines. Well, through some deep introspection, she uncovered her competing commitment. She was terrified that if the project succeeded, she would be promoted and become her boss's peer, a dynamic she felt completely unequipped to handle. She was intentionally, though totally subconsciously, failing in order to protect herself.
Trying to force change without addressing these hidden commitments is, as the researchers put it, exactly like shoveling sand against the tide. To overcome this immunity to change, we have to unearth what they call the big assumption. The big assumption is the deeply held, often lifelong insecurity anchoring that hidden commitment. For Helen, her assumption was, if I become a peer to my boss, I'll be exposed as a fraud. And where exactly do these big assumptions come from? That takes us to layer 4, trauma and deep identity. This is the deepest layer of our Matryoshka doll. We have to acknowledge that sometimes our inability to change stems from very early life experiences. Research from the University of Rochester Medical Center actually shows that childhood trauma fundamentally alters our brain's biology. It disrupts our fight-or-flight stress response and alters the salience network. That's the part of the brain used for learning and survival. When a child develops certain behaviors to cope with trauma, those rigid coping mechanisms become completely hardwired, making them incredibly difficult to just simply rewire with a new habit later in life. And this leads us to the ultimate truth about identity, which is captured just beautifully by the rubber band metaphor. If you secretly believe deep down that you are unworthy of success, or inherently bad with money, or unlovable, trying to change your external behavior is like pulling a rubber band away from its anchor. You can stretch it for a while with sheer willpower, but eventually the tension becomes too much and it will violently snap back to match your core belief.
Okay, so here is the blueprint for lasting change.
All right, take a deep breath with me. We have successfully diagnosed the diseases: homeostasis, cognitive dissonance, competing commitments, and deep trauma. Now, let's prescribe the cure. First things first, we have to flip how we set goals. Stop obsessing over outcome goals, what you want to achieve or what pain you're trying to escape. Instead, start obsessing over identity goals. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Don't say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Say, I want to become the type of person who never misses a workout. You have to move toward a highly specific, emotionally resonant vision of your future self, rather than just constantly running away from the pain of your present. Second, to beat your biological homeostasis, you have to expect the alarm bells. When you start feeling that anxiety or physical resistance, don't panic. Negotiate with it. Don't try to bull your way through it, but definitely don't retreat either. And, this is absolutely crucial, you must develop a support system. Your environment shapes what feels normal to you. If you really want to change, you must surround yourself with people who already normalize the exact behavior you're trying to adopt. Finally, to actually shift that core identity and bypass those stubborn competing commitments, you have to start ridiculously small. Do way less than you think you should. A 10-minute walk, reading just one page of a book. Why? Because the goal in the very beginning isn't some massive physical transformation. The goal is simply to prove to yourself that you can show up. You're casting tiny little votes for your new identity. And hey, if you miss a day, just treat it as data, not a moral failure. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this absolutely brilliant quote from James Clear. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Real change isn't about giant sweeping leaps. It's about shifting your identity vote by vote, day by day, until your new self just becomes the one your brain naturally defaults to protecting. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to carry with you today. Take a hard look at your schedule for tomorrow. Are your daily actions voting for the person you were or the person you are choosing to be? Thanks so much for joining me and keep casting those votes.